Us now is national security expert and retired Air Force Special Operations Commander Major Glenn Ignazio and retired U.S. Army Major Mike Lyons. Great to have both of you with us. Major Lyons, Ukraine has been asking for months to be able to use these missiles, these attack-mes, to strike deep in Russia. How big an impact might this have that they now have the permission to go ahead and do this?
It'll have some impact, Elizabeth. It's probably too late to have a significant impact. I mean, this is still fundamentally a tactical weapon system. What it'll allow Ukraine to do is attack fixed military targets that were out of range before. So Russia has moved some military targets that were close to the border out of the way of the artillery and other short-range fire capability that they had. But now this will allow them to go after targets deeper inside of Russia. But they're also constrained to those areas within the Kursk region where they're trying to defend. So they still are somewhat handcuffed by this decision. If it were something that we were allowing now, I'm not sure why we didn't allow this 2 or 3 years ago when this conflict was going on. We were in for a penny, in for a pound back then. We've just managed this conflict as opposed to letting Ukraine try to win it. And I think that's going to be the major difference here.
Yeah, Major Ignazio, do you think this will make any difference? Or is Zelensky just trying to hold on to some territory so he'll be in a better position to negotiate later?
Yeah, he's definitely trying to hold on in various ways. Now, the issue with exactly what the other major said is, this has been going on. In fact, the restrictions to be lifted was back in August. And in fact, Putin changed his constitution in September saying, hey, if a nuclear country backs a non-nuclear, we will consider that an attack, which is basically what we're doing right now, word for word of what he was going to promise, which to change his constitution. So anyways, as far as what's going on here and from being on the ground is, look, there has been deaths on both sides that are significant. And the only thing that is a resource that is limited, especially by Ukraine, is the manpower. Many have been killed on both sides. Russia now has that manpower from North Korea. Zelensky in Ukraine doesn't have the manpower to back it up. So even if these weapons are doing something significant, it doesn't change much on the ground as far as where these borders are. And that, unfortunately, I believe is an attempt to bring NATO into the conflict, which is something we shouldn't do. But Zelensky really doesn't have any other manpower to back up, and that's unfortunately the shortfall of this conflict right now.
Yeah, Major Lyons, it was the presence, we are told, the presence of North Korean troops on the battlefield that Putin needed to pull in because he's losing so many Russian soldiers in this battle. Will these North Korean soldiers now be a target of these attack-me missiles?
Yeah, I mean, they could be. I don't know how they wouldn't be. They're a military target if they get there. I mean, Russia has completely screwed up this war, though, from their perspective. They failed to cut off the head of the snake initially. They had so many advantages from an industrial military complex perspective. They clearly should have defeated Ukraine by now, given the situation on the ground, frankly. But they continue to throw men into the cauldron here, and they're now using allies to do this. I mean, whoever thought North Korea would join and do this? The reports of 100,000 troops coming. I don't know how that's even possible. How do you feed and keep all those men and that equipment that they're coming with in shape? So, but to Major's point, they have the advantage if they bring that kind of manpower to the battlefield. They'll outnumber Ukraine. They'll go on the offense, and they'll likely take some of that land back.
Well, I ask because there are those reports out today that as many as 100,000 North Korean soldiers could be on their way to the front lines to join the Russian army, that President Biden was hoping by giving Ukraine these missiles and permission to use these missiles deep in Russia, that it would discourage Kim Jong-un from sending his own troops to fight the Russian war because he doesn't want to lose all those troops. Do you think that'll work, that kind of deterrence?
No, I don't think so. Go ahead.
One and then the other, because I do want to hear from both of you on this. Major Ignazio, you go first.
Sure, thank you. In regards to this, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. This was an alliance that Russia and North Korea, signed in some months ago. And honestly, as far as the way North Korea, operates, is they're going to support Russia because they're getting something in return. We see a lot of rocket and missile capabilities going into North Korea. But as long as that is continuing, that pipeline continues, Russia will always be able to have more than Ukraine. And again, that will be strengthening for them. And really, those two leaders don't really care how many people are killed on the front. Unfortunately, that's the way they operate.
Yeah. Major Lyons, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. Deterrence is not anywhere near where it should be in this part of the world right now. Russia is undeterred. They have the support of China. They have the support of North Korea. So I don't see anything that's going to keep Kim Jong-un from not sending troops to support Russia, given this again, this alliance that they've created now, and given what their potential could be.
Super quick, Major Ignazio, you brought up the Russian threat to use nuclear weapons if a NATO country, in fact, supplied these missiles to Ukraine, as we have just done, and we are a NATO country. What do you think Russia's response might be?
Well, to repeat, as Putin said, that this was the reason why he changed his constitution, is that a nuclear country like ourselves or others support a non-nuclear like Ukraine, then he has the ability to consider that a direct attack. Word for word, that states that if they use these attack means in Kursk to Moscow or anywhere else, it trips that particular item. Now, would he use something major, nuclear or anything? Even a tactical nuclear weapon is a nuclear war. So is that possible? It's always possible. And honestly, you can never, ever underestimate Putin. And if you do, you're wrong.
Major Glenn Ignazio, Major Mike Lyons, that's a very daunting thing to consider. Thank you so much for the military expertise on all of this.